Hi everyone, this is Andy Chan. It is June 27th, 2026. Welcome back to my channel. This is going to be, I guess, part three, looking at the same set of data. The reason why I'm recording this video is I had quite a few people reach out to me after they watched the first two videos, which I really appreciate, by the way. One of them said they were a little confused with my use of sentiment analysis, and I do apologize. There are quite a few parts that I went through a little too quickly, perhaps, and especially this one. So I just wanted to create a short video about this and give who's ever interested at least some direction as to how to start understanding this numeric value. And the other thing is, and the original data was extraction from Canly of all the files that mention the Ruxadi ceremony. Now, this is where I need to apologize. I was told by somebody that my pronunciation is really bad. But unfortunately, I looked on YouTube and a few other places, and I really couldn't find a place where I felt comfortable saying, okay, this is the right pronunciation. So if somebody out there is watching this from South Asia, really appreciate a heads up on how to pronounce it properly, so I don't commit slander or just make a fool of myself. All right, so let me just get into this presentation. So what I did with this first slide is I'm just showing the highlight of Wikipedia and how it explains sentiment analysis. So if you want to know the URL, it's simply that. Go into Wikipedia, type in sentiment analysis. And what it is it'll it's a it's a it's a type of or a branch of language processing and machine learning where a numeric value is assigned to the like or dislike of something. So in this study, what I did was I told it if the visa officer said that the Ruxadi ceremony was not a factor, just assign it as a zero, just to give a numeric value of zero to a data field. If there's any other negativity, where, for example, the visa officer says, well, I don't believe the photos you submitted, or the ceremony was really small. So those are two of the common comments. And the third one was the Ruxadi ceremony wasn't even performed. So I assigned a negative numeric value to that. Okay, so again, sentiment analysis is just assigning a numeric value to the meaning of text, and you can get into this and you can start reading up about how that's applied. Now, let me show you how I got AI to give me that value. Okay, so here is the Notebook LM that I used. And what Notebook LM is a Google tool that you can drop in files, and you can let the Google RAG tool, summarize and analyze the meaning of those documents. I've subsequently let my license expire a bit. Well, actually, no, not a bit. I'm trying to figure out what they're charging me for, so I'm just letting it expire. But I believe if you pay like a premium subscription to Google Notebook LM, I think you can upload I think a couple hundred documents. I'm not sure of the number anymore. But if you use a free version, you can upload around 50 documents. But keep in mind one thing. As a immigration practitioner, you have to understand privacy. So if the license is free, I believe you're implying that you're letting Google train on your data. But if you have a paid license, I think you can specify that you don't want. I think by default, you're telling them not to train on your data. In this case, I'm okay because all these documents, all these PDF files, I pulled off of Canly. So it's publicly accessible information to begin with. Oh, okay. So I just wanted to mention that. Now, let me show you how I use the sentiment and analysis field. Okay, under this little icon is a data table. Notebook LM has a lot of different tools, and I'm focusing on this one, a data table. So what you can use this for is you can tell Notebook LM to summarize all your information and put the various attributes into different columns and a row for each document. Okay, so I'm going to show you. Let me just expand this a bit. And I think it's this one. All right, so I'm going to click on the three dots and I'm going to show you the view prompts and sources. So here's the prompt, and the part that I want to highlight is this. I'm asking for sentiment analysis field indicating an evaluation by the visa officer of the appropriateness of the Ruxadi ceremony, with 0 as neutral and up to -1 as negatively viewed. If there's no Ruxadi ceremony, give a value of -1 for the sentiment analysis field. So basically, any kind of negative mention, whether the visa officer says, you haven't given me enough proof, or I don't think you actually had the ceremony, that's where the negative value comes in. Oh, okay. So that's the prompt, and the sources are all the PDF files. Okay, and I'm just going to show you the result. Okay, here's the result, and it's a little hard to see. So the nice thing about Notebook LM is that you can export it. So I'm going to click on that. It says exporting, and here we go. So I'm just going to expand this. And this is the result. So when I was asked to look into this information, I was asked specifically about a fact pattern where the appellant did not have the ceremony. So that's why a lot of my analysis was focused on these rows here. So these are the -1s, meaning that either there's a very negative inference, like the visa officer did not believe it, had some really negative comments, or the ceremony was not performed. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to actually wrap this text so it's a little easier to read, hopefully. Oh, that didn't work. Okay, so you can tell I'm kind of winging this. Oh, okay. So for example, this file, and I'm just randomly clicking. Oh, let me just put on pause for 1 second. Yeah, I put on pause because an ambulance went by. So in this case of Sukat versus Canada, the visa officer was concerned by the lack of photographs. Okay, and to validate this, and this is why I always print off the URL. So I would copy this and put it in the address bar. And if you're not sure how I did that, all that URL was this link. And that's part of the data extraction that I always use. So I can always go back to the original document. And this is not a hallucination because the URL is right off of Canly. Okay, so this is like something posted on Canly, which I downloaded into a PDF and I fed into my Notebook LM. Okay, so I'm going to go back to the spreadsheet and just go back and says the visa officer was concerned by the lack of photographs. So I'm just going to see if I can find the word photograph. Okay, insufficient photographic evidence of the couple outside the wedding setting. Okay, and a delay in the response in the appellant to the procedural fairness letter. So let me look up Ruxadi. Okay. Oh, yeah, this is interesting. So I think the Gemini was a little off actually because the applicant originally told the visa officer said no Versati had been performed. And then let me scroll down a bit. Furthermore, the appellant identifies numerous photos in the record related to the Versati ceremony, and all three witnesses provide further details of the ceremonies. So this is so I can see why Gemini combined the idea that the photos weren't consistent with the ceremony because the visa officer says he didn't believe the photos, which could be this ceremony or the one before that, but it could be also tied into this particular couple's Ruxati ceremony. Yeah. Furthermore, the appellant identified numerous photos in the record related to the Ruxati ceremony. So I think that's where Gemini tied it to the comments of the visa officer. Okay. So, and this is a negative sentiment. So, I was just looking for any kind of negative value. Okay. So it gave it a value of -1. Okay. So let me just do another one. So I'm just randomly scrolling. Oh, this is interesting. This is interesting too. So it sounds like this one. Maybe the ceremony was held after the original application. Oh, actually no. Let me do this one. See if it's accurate. So in this case, there was a 13-month delay. So it's a case of Naeem versus Canada. So here's the URL. Let me see if I got that right. Okay, so I'm going to go into the address bar, paste it in, Naeem versus Canada. And I'm just going to do a find of Versati. Okay, they married through the Nikah Nama ceremony. And my apologies, I think I'm butchering that pronunciation too. They went through that ceremony in January 2014, and Versati ceremony on February 27th, 2015, meaning that there is a 13th month time lag. And if you look at here, this is why I like Gemini actually, because I don't see the words 13-month. Gemini knew to actually take those two dates and calculate how many months the difference they are. So over time, I built more and more confidence using this particular tool. I need to emphasize, I do check every single row. AI does commit hallucinations. In this particular study, I did find one hallucination because Gemini misinterpreted some language mentioned in the IAD appeal of the original visa refusal and got a little confused. So I did find one hallucination. But again, if you use AI, you always need to check everything. Oh, okay. So now it just assigned a value of -6. So, and that's something that I wanted to mention in the next slide. Okay, so in this slide, I can make the slide deck available, but I'm also making the notebook LM available so you can see how it fits in. But the one thing is that when you rerun the prompt, you may get a slightly different result, meaning that I've done this a few times now. It'll render -6, -0.6 this particular time, and I told it to give it a range of 0 to -1. In this case, for this particular case, it gave that sentiment analysis value on -0.6. If I were to rerun this again, it could be -0.5, it could be -0.7. So something, close to this value. And that's the problem with using sentiment analysis using an AI tool like Gemini. It's not necessarily consistent. I've never seen it flip, say, for example, a positive to a negative value or vice versa. but I do see it. I do see a value because it is a continuous variable. I do sometimes see the values change slightly. Oh, my apologies. There's another ambulance going by. Okay, the ambulance went by. Okay, so that's the first thing. The other thing is, and now the other thing is, each file is written by, well, there's many ID members. Some are more eloquent than others. There's no standard way that these decisions are written up. Some are more verbose, some are use more colorful language, some are more stoic. So even though two nearly identical fact patterns uh, you have different language, it could be underneath there that the underlying reasoning why the original refusal occurred could be exactly the same, but you could still get a different sentiment value, slightly different sentiment value. And the last thing is, and it shouldn't be a problem in analyzing IED files, is sarcasm. So sentiment analysis is used quite a bit by businesses when they're looking at customer feedback. The most, the most colorful one I can think of is if you give a restaurant review and you say something like, "Oh, they were fantastic. I ordered a salad and there were flies buzzing all over it. I never expected the restaurant to give me extra protein." Well, if you use sentiment analysis, that would be considered a highly positive review because you're saying, because by the language, wow, this review is very complimentary when it's not. So that is one of the problems with sentiment analysis. It's an imprecise science, and it is used in AI, but for the purposes of what I was trying to do, for looking for negative comments, that's why I use sentiment analysis to filter down all the files from Canly. And the reasoning behind that is I simply went into Canly, and it did this. I'll log in. One sec. There are a lot of ambulances there, and fire trucks actually. World Cup is on. Maybe something's going on. So I use the AI side panel quite a bit now, and I this was my prompt. Rasadi, spousal appeals. So I did something like that, and I click on search, and it'll go away. And what I really like is they'll put in the equivalent query into into these query fields here. Okay, put a pause 1 sec. So from that, it thought about it for a few seconds, and it came up with this. And I find this to be a little more flexible, and it gives you some more ideas how to structure your query too. So I really like that. So anyways, yeah, in this video, I just wanted to dive into how I came up with this number based on the sentiments of the visa officer. And for the purposes of the study that I did, I just wanted to focus on anything with a negative value. Uh, because when I filtered on this, I don't think there was a way to. I don't think there's a way to look at the negative sentiment of a Rasadi. So that's why I extracted everything, and I performed that second step uh, with this particular prompt. I'll show you this prompt. Hopefully, my navigating around isn't confusing anybody. Okay, so, and it's this section down here. So if you have any questions, please reach out to me. And I do appreciate everybody that's been spending some time trying to figure out what I did. I did it for one person in particular, but I thought, I learned quite a bit by going through this process. So in case if there's anybody else that maybe wants to look at cases in bulk and look for trends, this is how I go about doing it. Okay, thank you for your time, and I'll see you soon. Thanks. Bye.